The first time my sister publicly destroyed me, she was 7 years old and I was 10. The second time, she did it in front of 230 wedding guests. She stood beneath a crystal chandelier, wearing the white designer gown I'd quietly helped pay for, holding a champagne glass in one hand and a microphone in the other. She smiled at me. For one impossible second, I thought she was finally going to say thank you. Instead, she laughed. Before we continue, she said, "I'd like everyone to give a round of applause to my sister Hannah." The room erupted into polite applause. I forced a smile, then she tilted her head. "You know, the one who's always been jealous of me." The applause died almost instantly. "I guess some women just aren't meant to have fairy tale endings." A few nervous laughs drifted through the ballroom. She wasn't finished. I mean, she's 34, still single, and somehow thought helping with my wedding would finally make mom and dad proud of her. Every face turned toward me. My parents looked down at their plates. Not one word. Not one objection. Not one person stood up for me. Then my sister raised her glass. "So here's to Hannah." She smiled wider. "The world's most expensive bridesmaid." The room exploded with awkward laughter. Some guests looked uncomfortable, others whispered. Someone near the dance floor actually pointed at me. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I had spent 11 months planning that wedding. 11 months? I had coordinated vendors, fixed invoices, negotiated contracts, calmed emotional breakdowns, covered deposits when my sister forgot her credit card, designed invitations, picked flowers, rebuilt an entire seating chart 3 days before the ceremony because she suddenly decided she hated half her fiance's relatives. And now, I was the punchline. I didn't know it then. But less than 30 minutes later, that same microphone would expose secrets no one in that ballroom was prepared to hear, and my sister's perfect wedding would never recover. 6 months earlier, if someone had warned me not to help with the wedding, I probably wouldn't have listened. That's the funny thing about family. You keep believing the next time will be different, especially when you've spent your whole life earning love that never seemed to come naturally. My name is Hannah Brooks. I'm 34 years old. I live outside Seattle and own a small financial consulting firm that helps struggling family businesses stay afloat. It's not glamorous. Most people have never heard of what I do, but I love it. Helping people untangle impossible situations always came easier than untangling my own family. My younger sister, Chloe, was 31. If I was invisible growing up, Chloe was sunlight. Everything seemed to orbit around her. Teachers adored her. Neighbors praised her. Relatives called her the special one. My parents never actually said they loved her more. They didn't have to. It was in the little things. When there was one cupcake left, it went to Chloe. When money was tight, Chloe still got dance lessons. When I wanted art classes, Mom would smile apologetically. "Maybe next year, sweetheart." Next year never came. I learned early that being the older sister meant sacrificing quietly. At 16, I got my first part-time job. Half my paycheck disappeared into household bills. Dad called me responsible. A month later, Chloe wanted a new phone. Somehow there was money for that. Whenever I noticed the imbalance, Mom always had the same answer. "You're stronger, Hannah," as though strength meant needing less. I believed her. For years, I told myself Chloe just needed more attention, more guidance, more support. Then adulthood arrived. Nothing changed. If anything, the gap grew wider. While I worked 70-hour weeks building my business from a tiny rented office, Chloe bounced between careers: yoga instructor, lifestyle influencer, boutique owner, travel blogger, wedding photographer. Each dream lasted a few months, each ended with someone else supposedly ruining everything. And somehow, my parents always found a way to rescue her. Rent payments, car repairs, credit card debt. They called it helping. When they asked if I needed anything, I always answered no. Not because I had everything, because I already knew the answer. Then one rainy Tuesday evening, my phone rang. Hey Hannah. Chloe sounded unusually cheerful. I have amazing news. I smiled despite myself. What happened? He proposed. For a moment, all the old disappointments disappeared. I genuinely felt happy for her. That's wonderful. It gets even better. She laughed. I need your help. Those 4 words should have made me cautious. Instead, they made me hopeful. Maybe this was finally the moment we became real sisters. Maybe this wedding would be our fresh start. I had no idea I was volunteering to build the stage where she'd eventually humiliate me in front of everyone we'd ever known. And by the time I realized it, walking away would no longer be that simple. The first meeting should have told me everything. Instead, I mistook manipulation for excitement. 3 days after Chloe got engaged, she invited me to a trendy coffee shop downtown. She rushed in 20 minutes late, wearing oversized sunglasses even though it was raining. She hugged me with one arm. I knew you'd come. I said I would. She slid into the chair across from me and immediately started flipping through pictures of wedding venues on her tablet. I've decided we're doing something elegant. She grinned. You know what I mean. I smiled politely. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I couldn't do this without you. Those words landed exactly where she intended. For years, I'd wanted to feel needed by my little sister. For just a moment, I did. Then she opened a spreadsheet. I made a list. It wasn't a list. It was a blueprint for consuming my life. Venue tours, cake tastings, dress appointments, vendor interviews, invitation designs, hotel blocks, transportation, guest gifts, photography schedules, music planning, rehearsal dinner, bridal shower, bachelorette weekend, honeymoon itinerary, color palettes, floral consultations. Every line ended with my name. Hannah. 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 I looked up. What exactly are you doing? She blinked. I'm the bride. I waited. And you'll handle everything else. She said it like it was obvious, like she'd just explained gravity. I laughed. She didn't. You were serious. Of course. Chloe, I run a business. I know. I work 60 hours a week. You've always been good at multitasking. I stared at her. You've literally organized $1 million business restructures. She smiled proudly. A wedding should be easy, easy. That word would haunt me for months before I could answer. She leaned closer. You want my wedding to be perfect, don't you? There it was. The guilt, always wrapped inside a compliment. I hesitated. I'll help. Her smile exploded. I knew you would. Not thank you. Not are you sure? Just, I knew you would. The next morning, my inbox contained 37 emails, all from Chloe.by lunch. There were 52 Pinterest boards, venue links, flower ideas, guest list changes, color revisions, questions she expected answered immediately. By midnight, 81 emails. I answered everyone, because that's what I'd always done. Fix things. Keep the peace. Make everyone else's life easier. 2 weeks later, I met her fiancé. His name was Ethan. He stood as soon as I entered the restaurant. Hannah. I nodded. He smiled warmly. It's so nice to finally meet you. He actually seemed normal. Kind eyes. Firm handshake. Easy laugh. He thanked the waitress every time she refilled his water. He listened when people spoke. He remembered names. I couldn't understand how someone like him fit into Chloe's world. Halfway through dinner, he excused himself to take a call. The second he disappeared, Chloe rolled her eyes. He's impossible. I frowned. He seems nice. He's boring. You said you loved that he was steady. I do. She shrugged. But sometimes I wish he'd stop asking questions. What kind of questions? She waved a dismissive hand. Money. I looked up. What about money? He keeps wanting budgets. It's a wedding. Exactly. She leaned in. He doesn't understand that weddings cost what they cost. What's the budget? She avoided my eyes. I haven't told him yet. My stomach tightened. How much are you planning to spend? She smiled. It'll work itself out. Whenever Chloe said that, someone else ended up paying. 3 days later, Mom called. Hannah. Hi, Mom. I heard you're helping your sister. I am. That's wonderful. A pause. We're so proud of you. The words felt strangely unfamiliar. Then she continued. Actually, there it was. We were wondering if maybe, another pause, you could cover the florist deposit. I closed my eyes. I thought Chloe had saved for this. She has. So why? Mom sighed dramatically. Sweetheart, weddings are expensive. So is owning a business. You make good money. There it was again. The assumption that my success belonged to everyone except me. It's only $3,500, only. I almost laughed. I'm not paying for the florist. Silence. Then disappointment. We just thought. I've already taken unpaid time off. Hannah, I've done enough. Mom's voice turned cold. It's your sister's special day. The guilt settled over me like wet concrete. An hour later, I transferred the money. I hated myself for it. Not because of the money, because I'd broken my own boundary. Again. Over the next 3 months, the wedding became my second full-time job. I negotiated thousands of dollars in discounts. I convinced vendors to extend payment deadlines. I redesigned invitations after Chloe changed the wedding colors. Twice. Actually, 3 times. Every decision became an emergency. Hannah, I hate the roses. Hannah, the chairs look cheap. Hannah, can you make the ballroom bigger? Hannah, why is it raining? Sometimes I honestly wondered if she blamed me for the weather. One afternoon, I arrived at the bridal boutique carrying garment bags. Inside, Chloe was surrounded by bridesmaids. The room went quiet when I walked in. Oh, Chloe looked surprised. I forgot you were coming. I checked my phone. You asked me to bring your accessories. She snapped her fingers. Oh, right. Without standing. She pointed toward the corner. Just leave everything over there. Not thank you. Not even eye contact. One of the bridesmaids, Emily, watched the exchange. As Chloe disappeared into the fitting room, Emily walked over. You okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine. She lowered her voice. You do realize you're doing everything. It's her wedding. Emily shook her head. No, she glanced toward the dressing rooms. You're being used. The words hit harder because they came from someone who barely knew me. Before I could answer, we heard shouting. Chloe stormed out of the fitting room. My veil is ruined. The consultant looked confused. Ma'am, it's exactly the one you ordered. I've changed my mind. She turned toward me. Hannah, every head turned. Fix it. There it was again. As if every inconvenience in her life somehow belonged to me. I took a slow breath. I'll see what I can do. She smiled triumphantly, because she knew exactly what would happen. I would solve the problem. Just like I always had. What I didn't know was that someone standing quietly near the boutique entrance had witnessed the entire exchange, someone who would remember every word, and months later, that memory would help expose a lie that shattered Chloe's perfect image forever. The ballroom was almost empty by the time I walked outside. The laughter was gone. The music had stopped. The fairy lights still twinkled around the garden, but they felt strangely out of place now. Just an hour earlier, everyone had believed they were celebrating the perfect wedding. Now they were whispering about hidden debts, forged documents, secret loans, and years of lies. None of it had come from me. I hadn't exposed Chloe. I hadn't planned revenge. I hadn't even defended myself. The truth had simply arrived on its own. When Ethan discovered the folder of unpaid invoices and hidden loans in the middle of the reception, he asked questions Chloe couldn't answer. Then the wedding planner admitted Chloe had secretly changed contracts and blamed vendors whenever bills came due. A bridesmaid produced text messages proving Chloe had mocked nearly everyone in attendance, including our parents, Ethan's family, and even me. Finally, Ethan's best man quietly handed him printed bank statements showing Chloe had been using his accounts without permission for months. The room changed in seconds. People who had laughed at me minutes earlier suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. My parents stood frozen. For the first time in my life, they had nothing to say. I walked toward the parking lot carrying the same emergency binder I'd carried for almost a year. It felt strangely light. Wait. I turned. It was Dad. He looked older than he had that morning. His shoulders had collapsed. His eyes were red. I owe you an apology. I waited. I should have stopped her. He swallowed hard. I should have stopped all of this years ago. Those words were something I'd dreamed about hearing since I was a little girl, but when they finally came, they didn't erase anything. I know, I said softly. I'm sorry. I know. He lowered his head. There was nothing else to add. A few minutes later, Mom found me sitting on a bench outside the venue. She looked exhausted. I don't know how we got here. I looked toward the ballroom. I do. She frowned. You taught Chloe that someone would always rescue her. Tears filled her eyes. And you taught me that being the responsible daughter meant staying quiet. She covered her mouth. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was finally telling the truth. For the first time. She listened. My phone buzzed. It was Emily. One of the bridesmaids, Emily. You deserved so much better. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. A second message appeared. It was from the wedding planner. Thank you for treating us with kindness. None of this was your fault. Then another. And another. Guests I'd barely spoken to were apologizing. Not because I had demanded it, because they'd finally seen what had been happening all along. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Ethan had officially ended the marriage before filing the paperwork. The wedding had lasted less than 24 hours. He quietly rebuilt his life. He never spoke badly about Chloe. He simply walked away. As for Chloe, the influencer partnerships she'd bragged about disappeared. Friends stopped answering her calls after learning she had lied to all of them. Several vendors pursued unpaid invoices in court. People who had once rushed to defend her slowly realized she'd been manipulating them for years. For the first time in her life, no one came to rescue her, not because people hated her, because they finally understood the difference between helping someone and enabling them. My own life became surprisingly peaceful. Without constant family emergencies, my business grew faster than ever. I hired 3 new employees, bought my first office building, started traveling on weekends instead of spending them solving someone else's problems. Most importantly, I stopped apologizing for having boundaries. Almost a year after the wedding, I received an unexpected letter. It was handwritten. From Mom. Inside was a single photograph. It showed the two of us when I was 8 years old. I was holding Chloe's bicycle while she smiled for the camera. I'd been cropped out so badly that only half my face remained. On the back, Mom had written, I spent too many years looking at the wrong child. I can't change yesterday, but I hope you'll let me do better tomorrow. I cried when I read it, not because everything was suddenly fixed. It wasn't. Healing doesn't happen because someone says they're sorry. It happens because people choose different actions every single day. And for the first time, they actually did. I still think about that wedding sometimes. Not because of the humiliation, not because of the laughter, not because my own sister tried to turn me into the evening's entertainment. I remember it because that was the day I finally stopped carrying a burden that had never belonged to me. For years, I believed keeping the family together was my responsibility. It wasn't. The truth doesn't destroy families, the lies do, and sometimes Karma doesn't need an invitation. It simply arrives when the pretending finally ends. I didn't win because my sister lost. I won because, for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to earn love from people who should have given it freely.